The grand dragon of today's Ku Klux Caucus, that would be Donald Trump. But the point is that the Democratic Party needs to start dealing with the Republican Party not as a legitimate political party. This is the problem. I mean, you see, like, Sinema and Manchin hanging out with Republicans going, oh, yeah, we're all cool here. No, I'm sorry. The Republican Party is no longer a real conventional political party. I mean, a week or two ago shared with you this extraordinary study out of Europe comparing the Republican Party with a whole variety, with several hundred, I think it was over 300 different political parties across Europe. And, because most European countries have parliamentary systems and proportional representation in parliament, they have multiple parties, unlike the United States, where we basically have two parties. And so they looked at, several hundred political parties and compared them to the Republican Party, and the conclusion they came to was that the Republican Party was closest to Viktor Orban's Fidesz, which is the right-wing fascist party that has taken over Hungary, shut down the free press, imprisoned people like me, imprisoned the opposition, particularly its people in the media, it's just, and this is, by the way, now starting to infect Poland seriously as well. So, basically they just came out and said the Republican Party is not a legitimate political party. Well, okay, if it's not a legitimate political party, what is it? Donald Trump dumped his blog. I mean, that was like the big news story yesterday afternoon, right? Trump kills his blog because it only had 150,000 followers, which, is a statement of the power of the algorithms on Twitter and Facebook to amplify anything outrageous. I mean, that's, they make their money on engagement. Outrage drives engagement. It's the exact same game that they play over on Fox News. Hey, let's get all upset about Mr. Potato Head today, right? Phony outrage. But anyhow, Trump abandoned his blog because, there's really only one message from Donald Trump that his base cares about. Trump wasn't offering deep thoughts on the economy or insights into the nation's infrastructure or even commentary on the Middle East. He wasn't, he wasn't like Richard Nixon, a foreign policy expert. He wasn't like Ronald Reagan, a Republican who completely believed supply-side economics and trickle-down economics. He wasn't like George W. Bush, who passionately told us how important it was that we attack the country that has the second largest supply of oil on earth, Iraq, and then turn that oil over to Dick Cheney's company, or at least a chunk of it, and the revenues from it. Basically the only thing Donald Trump has to offer his followers is racism. It's just that simple. And that's not unique in our history. I mean, back in 1921, when Republicans took the White House with the election of Warren Harding, and by the way, this is not in the 1920s. This was not entirely partisan. This was in part in response to Woodrow Wilson showing Birth of a Nation. But basically, you had 12 years of Republican rule that paralleled a massive rise in power and influence by the Ku Klux Klan. And in fact, on my blog today, or my post today, or whatever you call it, over at HartmannReport.com, I posted a picture of 150,000 cheering Americans, applauding. In 1926, 30,000 Klan members marching down Pennsylvania Avenue, or whatever the avenue is, marching down to the Capitol. That's, that's where we were at in the 1920s when Republicans were running the White House. It kind of fell off, in the 1960s, Klan membership after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and things like that. Basically, it became embarrassing to wear Klan regalia. You still had a few diehards like David Duke, but basically, and Steve Scalise, the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives, Republican from Louisiana, who said, "I am David Duke without the baggage." So, I mean, it's still around, but they don't call themselves the Klan anymore. They call themselves the Republican Party. Where did all those Klan members go? They became Republicans. Why? Because Richard Nixon, on the advice of his consultancy, there was these three guys who started this political consulting company back in the late 60s that worked for Richard Nixon. They were Lee Atwater, Paul Manafort, and Roger Stone. Their company was something like Atwater, Manafort, Stone, or Associates, or some variation on that. And they basically advised Richard Nixon to start calling out to the white racist so-called silent majority with his Southern strategy. This is what they invented. So, bottom line, and there was an Axios Ipsos poll that just showed this the other day, that like 4% of Republicans think that, we need to do more to, here it is, that 4% of Republicans agree with the notion that America is a racist country. 48% of Republicans disagree, say America's not racist, and only 4% of Democrats say that. I mean, this is 87% of white Democrats believe America needs to continue working to give black Americans equal rights. Only 19% of white Republicans agree. This is why Republicans have introduced legislation into 47 states to block voting by non-white people. Today's GOP is the Klan reinvented. They don't care about foreign policy. They don't give a rat's ass about the federal budget or what tax rates corporations pay. They don't care about Keynesian economics or trickle-down economics. All they care about is that black people and other racial and gender minorities, along with their white women, are kept under their thumbs. I mean, this is it. It's very straightforward. History is literally repeating itself. It's why the Republican legislatures all across the country are so hysterical about the racial history of America being taught in our schools. Well, of course, the Klan would be hysterical about it. It reflects poorly on them. It's why you've got open Nazis organizing, MAGA events on Facebook. The Democratic Party is in denial. We have had this evidence since 1968 that the Republican Party was reinventing itself as the Klan, or that the Klan was reinventing itself as the GOP at the behest of Richard Nixon. And they've been going on this path all along. Even these armed white militias, they're just the old night riders. Democrats need to recognize this. They need to get out of denial and start treating the Republican Party the way that they would treat the Klan, because that's what it is. We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.